name is Wang. I'd like to talk about wood culture and green building and eco-engineering in Taiwan. Culture has a very wide connotation. Personally, I think everything that has something to do with our daily life, being it tangible or intangible, can all be included into the concept of culture. And the structures are very important for everyday life because we live and we are sheltered by structures. Recently, our lab is working on an environmental program, so I'd like to start from this program to give you a glimpse of wood culture in Taiwan and how can we give more publicity to the utilization of wood to the general public, and of course we need incentives from all aspects. And if people use more wood, it means the logging of more wood, of more forests. So we should, on one hand, promote the utilization of wood, on the other hand, make more plantation so as to realize sustainable development. Otherwise, if too much wood is used, and the forest will decay, just like a human being that will normally die at 70, 80, 90. So we should treat forests as human beings, as our friends, because they have a life. And we should not go to extremes, because there is one school of thought that if people do not exist or human beings die collectively, then there won't be any ecological damage. But this is not the right solution. We should strike a balance in utilization of the natural resources and in protection of those resources. So this balanced concept is popular now. The first page is my abstract, and you may read by yourselves. In Taiwan, it is a pity that we are living in a concrete and steel forest. It seems to be a sign of modernization. However, if you look at the quality of life, no. If you look at advanced countries in Europe, United States, North America, and Japan, we may notice more utilization of wood. And we have done some public survey. And according to the answers we've solicited from the questionnaire, we found more and more people begin to have a better preference to wood. And such preference is also quite popular in advanced countries. Concrete and steel is widely used in developing countries, threatening the health of many. So health protection, environmental protection have become more and more active today. Back in 1976, Mr. Soizumi from Japan has pointed out that in the 20th century, it is an age of concrete and steel. However, in the 21st century, the world will usher in an era of bioculture, bio-civilization. And we should have a better policy to cater to the coming of such an era. For example, in Taiwan, recently there is an active promotion of the green structure, which focuses on the conservation of energy and low pollution, low energy consumption, and less impact on environment. Currently, for green structures, there are 6 indices in China, including biodiversity green index, water maintenance, water maintaining index, water resource utilization index, daily energy consumption, conservation, carbon dioxide reduction, waste reduction, sewage and garbage improvement, and indoor environment indexes. And among these 9 indices, item 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9 all have a close bearing on the utilization of forest and wood. So basically, we can say that green structure is actually a forest culture. And in the morning, we have listened to Japanese speeches, and we have found those beautiful wood structures. It is our hope that through cultural promotion, green structure can be better utilized or popularized. And some background about the promotion of green structure, and this originated from the Kyoto Protocol. And the topic of reduction of carbon dioxide. In order to comply with the Kyoto Protocol, we need to do reduction in many aspects, and construction and civil engineering is a major source of carbon dioxide emission. And in the morning, we've also listened to previous speakers that forests can be a carbon dioxide sink. It can also be a source for emission of those carbon dioxide because forests are alive. So it all depends on how you manage the forests. And in this management, we should consider the sinking function of the carbon dioxide. And for 1 square kilometers of forest, this sinking capacity can be increased from 100 to 500 to 700. And secondly, we should increase the maintenance function of carbon by a certain area of forest. And thirdly, we need to expand the carbon substitute effect. And to this end, we must increase the utilization rate of forest products. Wood culture is a quality and premium culture which can substitute plastic culture and cement culture. It can not only increase the quality of household life, but will also promote the forestation efforts and make multi-structured, healthy forests. It contributes not only to economic growth but also social and environmental benefits. And in this process, landscaping has a greater bearing on our daily life. Healthy urban life cannot be separated from a very green landscape. Over 20% of landscaping can satisfy the basic need of the citizens. If the landscaping rate is about 30%, you may find that the local citizens can feel happier. However, only a few countries in the world can still keep their landscaping rate at 30% or above. The green policy, another contribution of the green policy is the fixation of carbon dioxide. IPCC recognized that for per 1 cubic meters of forests, and the carbon dioxide fixation is around 0.95 tons.
So in Taiwan, there's a research showing that for a big tree, it can locate about 808 kilograms of carbon dioxide within one square meters. The bushes can only locate 217 kilograms. The flowers can locate 46 kilograms. So when we are designing the architectural buildings, we need to consider for 1 square meters how many carbon dioxide that we need to locate. We need to consider this when we rating whether one building is green or not. For public buildings, if the cost of building is over 50 million, then you need to have the label. You need to meet the 9 index to get the label of a green building. If you cannot get a green label, you cannot build building, the public building. That is the different. This is showing that the different plants that can locate different amount of carbon dioxide. Why we need a large broadleaf tree in every square meters. We hope that Taiwan can pay more attention about the greenization. 600 must be exceeded for the dioxide location. Otherwise, there will be points detected, and then they will not be able to get a green building label. Another thing is that because nowadays the thermal effect, if you have a green plants surrounding the house, and the temperature may be lowered by 3 to 5 centigrades. And we also have a test showing that if you have flowers in the room, then temperature can be lowered by 3 to 5 centigrade. Why we need to do that in Taiwan? Because in Taiwan, each kilograms of cement will produce 0.4 kilograms of carbon dioxide. So is the steels and the tile and the bricks. So in Taiwan, the carbon dioxide discharge of the buildings is about 300 kilograms for 1 square meters. So every household they will discharge 34,000 kilograms of carbon dioxide. That equals to what a broadleaf tree can absorb for 40 years. So it is very unsustainable for the carbon recycling. That's why we need to have more green buildings, and we can lower the concentration of the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. The daily energy consumption, the building consumption accounted for 27.22%, accounting 1/3 of the Taiwan. Building materials accounted for about 10%. So carbon dioxide reduction regarding building is something that we must do. So just now. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. In the morning, the Japanese friend also talk about this. When we are processing the wood, the energy we need is very low. And in the wood, 50% are the cotton. In this table, you can see that in the Taiwan's green building, we need to assess the carbon dioxide absorption. And Of course, the deduction of the figure is something positive for them. For example, in the tropical stores, and that means we encourage people to use the forest from the subtropical and the cold areas, and the use of wood from the tropical areas are discouraged. Let's not the Japanese friend talk about some data from Japan. It says each household will use 0.17 household. Now we look at in Taiwan. These are the substitutes. If you want to use, if you use wood to substitute other materials, that is how this behavior can reduce the discharge of carbon dioxide. Now, if you want to change the iron frame, window frame back to wooden frame, then there will be a lot of carbon dioxide discharge be reduced. Okay, let's look at this slide. That's the wood structure, the life cycle of the wood, and the processing, and the energy need for processing the wood is very low, and the wood can locate half of the carbon dioxide carbon, so it can locate the carbon inside the building. It's just like urban forest. This forest will not absorb forest, but it will locate fixate the carbon dioxide. Then it will. So the wood structure is the most suitable form for the label of a green building in Taiwan. In order to achieve the objective of a green building, we hope that we can promote the wood structure so as to attain this goal. Now in Taiwan, we are promoting some Japanese style of building material, building structures. This is the current construction forms we are encouraging. Actually, there are three forms. One from North America, and from Japan is deadlock. When we compare the different kinds of structures, we can see that we are now investigate how many wood are we going to use when we building wood structure. That is about 0.21. It's a little bit higher than the so for about 100 square kilometers, about 55 carbon dioxide emission. For 190, but the reinforced RC will discharge 200 for 7.08 carbon dioxide. That is about 4 to 5 times. And in Japan, the times is about 2.4 to 2.9, because there's difference in the effect, of course, because we have a different way of processing or producing. Now, the discharge of carbon dioxide for the Taiwan wood structure is about 7,484, but the PRC is 33,000, and S are about 27,000. And the wood structure will use about 20 kilometers of wood. So if we use wood structure to replace RC or S, then the reduction of carbon dioxide will be about 52,140 kilograms, and the carbon dioxide reduction will be about 45,455 kilograms. These are the three different structures. This is light steel, this is wood, and this is what we call the concrete and steel. In Japan, This is the figures in Taiwan, and this is the figures in Japan, because the energy structure is different in different countries. So the figures about the reduction is not the same. That is very normal. And another reason why there's a difference, because we have different way of calculating the reduction of carbon dioxide emission. Now, how we judge the carbon storage? There's a very simple form we can use to calculate. A formula we can calculate. For example, how many wood are you using, or what is the density, dry density. And then you can calculate how many carbon storage you are going to get. In a few days ago, we have a forum in Taiwan. We invited a Japanese producers. They told us that in Okinawa, the wood structures, they use 1 cubic meters of wood, and then there will be an increase of wood consumption. And then some people worry about where can we get the trees and where can we get the limbers. I think that is a problem of sustainable utilization of the wood. We cannot just chop down trees without concrete and steels. We have damaged the environment a lot. Now people have got new ideas in some less important place. Why do you need to use the concrete and the steels now? Wood is also a kind of materials. It's one of the most natural materials. When we are using the planted or human planted forest, we should try our best to use the planted trees in our civil engineering. And the background, the natural environment, landscaping, maintenance, and the people's respect for nature has become increased, and people have pay more attention to the protection, environmental protection, and people have got to use the idea of protecting the environment with the rational use of the wooden materials. So we can use the wood as the most natural way of producing architectures. In Japan, they also do a lot of job in terms of ecological projects. For example, they have produced the 4 trees into the very big column with the diameter of 9 centimeters and 15 centimeters. So, because they have to contact the nature, then there's a problem of corrosion. So in terms of fire corrosion, so we can use a lot of other ways, like the compression, like the OD method to help the material to resist the water corrosion. And we also use some AEC. CCA has been banned in Japan from this April. And then we estimate that the material can last for 30 to 40 years without any sign of conclusion. That is what we call the OD method. And we also go to the field to assess the height and the local conditions of where the building will be situated. I think the maximum height will be 1.5 hectares. At the field we see that we see that it's a wood structure, and and we should we have a cut at each side about 10 centimeters from the points. The internal will be about 80 centimeters. And then we place the structure on this 2-meter wood. And then we place the 2 meters log on the carving of the 1 meter long rock. That's what the Japanese has done in many years ago, and it can be used as the wall or the dam to fight the flood. You can see this is what the Japanese have done. This example, the wooden frame retaining wall of the Japan. This is a multiple assemble wood ground seal, and this is not complicated projects. It's a river bank retaining wall. Okay, I now give some introduction to some Taiwan projects.
And these are some cases of Taiwan bio projects. This is a picture taken in Taiwan. It is the 3rd year in use, and green bamboo is all over the place. And next to it is concrete. It's made of concrete, and when it is summertime, there is no single piece of grass, so very sharp contrast. And the original planted trees around the concrete structure all dried. Another case, which was done in 2005, and now if you go to the place, all green. And this is another one, and it is designed especially so for the purpose and convenience of comparison. So those 3 are typical cases, and they are done in the same basin area, and we want to study the development after several years. If we combine the cases, including the wooden frame retaining wall, wooden frame check dam, and the following, and in the processing of the wood, there will be carbon dioxide emission. The green represents the good consumption, and it also, but if compared with steel and concrete structure, the emission is much greater, and the carbon dioxide storage is 0. So when the tool does calculation, on the rightist column you will find the carbon dioxide reduction. And we may find the top one is the utilization of wooden frame check dam. The carbon dioxide reduction is around 38,673 kilograms. So we use this kind of calculation to lobby the general public and to convince them of the benefits of bio projects. So we are showing them the actual benefits from a bio project. Of course, there might be questions like, what about the safety? But our approach is that do this partially. It is not a whole structure use wood. And in some certain circumstances, we will use stone and concrete to function as the bearing wall. And if in certain topology, there won't be any possibility of sliding, then wood will be a good alternative. For example, for one frame check dam we have done, after half a year there was a flood, and we have learned a lesson from that. But the structure we have done stood the test of this flood because we use combined structure using both wood and stone when necessary. This is another wooden frame check dam. If you go to which is around the Taiping Mountain in Taiwan. A simple conclusion. Being it in a structure, construction of bridges, a residential area, the utilization of wood can not only reduce carbon dioxide and also can make more safe and convenient structure. And for one typical building, the use of wood can reduce carbon dioxide by 50 tons. So the promotion of wood culture will help people to understand the benefits that are brought about by the utilization of wood. And we can better manage the forests, realize renewable resources, and reduce the impact of global warming. With that, thank
you. Thank you very much. This is a very interesting talk. And I was wondering about some issues in comparison with what's happening in the U.S. in green building. When you mentioned the green policy, are some of the policies you mentioned being established by government to decide which products are the more environmentally friendly? Or is this something that has been done in the private sector?
那个绿建筑的话是这个政策了哦，绿建筑。那么绿建筑的话是一个政策哦。那另外这个生态工程基本上也是工程会台湾工程会在推的，也是一个政策哦，一个 policy。但是它不一定说规定用木材了哦。生态工程的话，对，所以我们才从事这一方面，才要努力去推，让他们可以接受，可以来使用，是这样。还有什么？
那我来问你，那你讲那个50% 的这个地带，那你这个50% 的地带，是有没有规定什么树种或者什么？比如说草皮跟树木是不是一样的可以有固定一样的这个碳这样的？
它这个不一样。
There it is. For certain projects, there will be certain arrangements. If it's in the designing phase, you have to do a calculation. If the space is quite limited, then you have to plant trees. And this table can help you to calculate how much. For example, broadleaf trees and also brushes for different kind of trees may have different indexes in the structure evaluation. So when the designer is doing his job, he will refer to the table to do the calculation, and the competent authority will also follow the same standard. When you are doing the initial application, you have to go through the 9 indices, and they have to submit to the authority that I have actually met a certain index. And the ultimate requirement is that 9 index must be met. And another question is that you encourage the utilization of wood house, but after 30, 40, 50 years, there must be a recovery of the wood house, or taking back of the wood house. How do you evaluate that? Before in this 9 index. Yes, this one. There are certain index on the evaluation of the recovery or recycle of the wood house. For example, concrete and steel must be used again. And so you see in this index towards the end, there is an index about the waste recovery. So in this index, steel, wood has a better advantage. If it's concrete and steel, it is very difficult to do the waste recovery.
好，那就我们谢谢这个王教授。